Anubis, come forth.
Gamites, greetings! Big Brother Almighty, most eloquent leader of Gamma Phi Gamma Mu. Gamites, hello, Big Brother General George Patton, sir. Gamites, hello, Big Brother Chuck E. Norris. Gamites, hello, Big Brother Dr. Field. Good. Gamites, hello, Big Brother. Gamites, what up, Big Brother X-Ray Vision.
Break it down now.
So I want to start off with Jeremiah 44:16. And it reads, it says, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, in other words, Yahweh, we will not hearken unto thee. All right? The next scripture says, the next verse, which is verse 17, says, but we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, to pour out drink offerings unto her as we have done. All right? We and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, for them had we plenty, victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. So I want to start off with this scripture right here, because in this text, you had Israel, as usual, falling by the wayside, worshiping and indulging in false gods and idols. And here they were worshiping the Queen of heaven. All right? So when you see in the scripture here, Jeremiah brought warning to them, right? And so the people, this is what they said. They literally said here, after he gave them the word about correcting the actions, they said here, we will not hearken unto thee. In other words, they said, we will not listen. So I know there's at least one person that's going to tune in, and no matter what I say, no matter what truth that we give here tonight, you're still going to hold on to whatever you want to believe. And that's what is called delusional. All right? And so many people will hold on to what they want to do regardless of what the word says. Whatever the truth say, they still would not listen. And we live in a day and time right now that people are saying we will not hearken, we will not listen to what? The words that the Most High is sharing. All right? And they went on and said again, we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her as we have done. All right? And then it goes on to say again, it says, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, in the streets of Jerusalem, for then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. What they're saying here is, guess what? They've been doing it for a while, and guess what? They didn't see any judgment come. They didn't see anything happen, so they're going to continue doing what they've been doing. That's exactly what they're saying here. They're saying that, hey, you know what? They brushed the prophet off and say, hey, we're going to continue doing what we've been doing. All right? I don't have a problem. Hey, I'm still standing here. If the Most High really had a problem with my lifestyle of me indulging in idol worshiping, then he didn't take us out. That's exactly what they're saying here. He haven't punished us, so we must be doing something all right. He may not be all that mad with our with what we're indulging in. And so that's what they're saying inside this text. And there's so many people that have this same mindset today, that are doing all kinds of things that's profaning the Most High God's people, and indulging into all forms of perversions and all kinds of idol worshiping, and taking the same posture as our ancestors had taken, saying that, hey, you know what? We were well and we saw no evil. All right? So I'm still going to give this truth, whether you receive it or not. I always say that what? Whether you reject the truth or not, it's not going to change the truth. But if you embrace the truth, guess what? I guarantee you, it will change you.
Your body's
anything to prove my worthiness.
You have been to the movies again, I see. Full of disciples falling to their knees at the slightest hint of their master's displeasure. We have finished our journey together.
But Master, the final level, the glow. You always said that
when you reached the final level, you would know it by the appearance of a sublime glow all over your body.
Leroy! You warmed up yet? Yeah. Playtime's over, boy. I can't hear you, Leroy! Who is the master? I said, who's the master? Can hear you. Who is the master?
There is one place that you have not looked, and it is there, only there, that you shall find a master.
You sure look like a master to me.
All right, Leroy. Who's the one and only master?
I am.
See, we have to be careful of the music and that we gravitate to, because there's so many what is called subliminal messages within it. And even within that song that you heard in The Last Dragon, you saw, you heard these words that says, when you get that glow, you know the power of elevation. And believe it or not, these are terms from mysticism, right? And all of us love The Last Dragon. I love The Last Dragon, Bruce Leroy and all of that. And I remember also with the school days when that came out. You know, it's a lot of things that we gravitate to, but we really don't understand the meaning behind the things that we hold on to. But I'm here to tell you that there are deeper meanings to all of these things, including what? School days. And we're going to cover that today. All right? So let's get started. First question. Why do people join these fraternities? Why do they join these sororities? Why do they join these GLOs? All right? GLOs, that's what they are called. They are called GLOs. In other words, Greek lettered organizations. Greek lettered organizations. So why do people join the GLOs? All right? Many people join the GLOs for what? Connections. Because all of us heard that before. You know, if you get connected to a fraternity or sorority, guess what? There's all kinds of connections and job opportunities that they can connect you to. All right? Employment opportunities. Okay? All right? So I want to start off by doing a little house cleaning. Because I didn't do this last night, which this is part of the presentation, but I didn't do it last night. But tonight, I'm doing a full uncut version of the presentation. So I had to set the tone, lay the foundation by starting off with what is heritage. All right? Because many people that are joining these organizations have no clue about what heritage is. All right? And the Hebrew word for heritage is morashah. All right? Morashah. That's the Hebrew word for heritage. And I want to just cover this right here. Why? And go right into the teachings that we're going to do about fraternities, because we may have some that may tune in that have no clue about their heritage. Well, I'm going to give you just a quick crash course of what your heritage is. All right? So what is heritage? All right? What is race? Is it a nationality? What is race? Is race a nationality? All right? And I want to make this clear. Race does not represent a nationality. The term black or white or whatever the case may be, those are descriptors, but those terms are not nationality. They do not represent nationality. All right? Race does not represent identity. Okay? Race does not represent, again, heritage. All right? So I want to touch on this a little bit here. So race does not represent heritage. It represents a social identity. I'll say it again. Race represents a social identity. All right? Well, what do I mean by that? All right? Well, I want to give you clarity here. Okay? This is coming from an article titled Origins of the Idea of Race by Audrey Smedley, Anthropology Newsletter, November 1997. All right? This is coming from PBS.org. All right? I'm going to get out the way so you can see this. All right? Now, this is a couple of bullets from there. It says, contemporary scholars agree that race was a recent invention and that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new to anthropologists. Now I'm going to say it again. It says contemporary scholars agree that race was was a recent invention. So the whole institution of race is an invention, which someone has a patent on that invention. All right? So race was a recent invention in that it was essentially a folk idea, not a product of scientific research and discovery. This is not new to anthropologists. All right? It goes on to say, the term race, which had been a classificatory term like type or kind, but with ambiguous meaning, became more widely used in the 18th century and crystallized into a distinct reference for Africans, also for Indians, and also for Europeans. All right, so I'll say it again. The term race, which had been a classificatory term like type or kind, but with ambiguous meaning, all right, became more widely used in the 18th century and crystallized into a distinct reference for Africans, Indians, and Europeans. All right, want to highlight one more thing here. In the same article here, it tells us, it says, by focusing on the physical and status differences between the conquered and enslaved peoples and the Europeans, the emerging ideology linked with socio-political statuses and physical traits together and created a new form of social identity. There we have it right there. It says that in a nutshell, the whole institution of race was created primarily to what? To establish what? A line drawn between the Europeans, who, according to this system, is supposed to be what? Superior. And guess what? Those they conquered and enslaved, guess what? They are supposed to be what? Inferior. So each time you use the term black and white, what you're doing is you're promoting this system right here. You are saying that you are inferior, and you're saying that the Europeans are superior to you. You can look this up. This is not something that I made up here. But here's the kicker for all those that feel like identity is not important, that feel like, hey, as long as I'm covered under the blood, guess what? Identity is not important. Well, let me tell you, identity is very important, and it's very important to what? Hasatan, to Satan. Because every system that he has in place is what? To what? Steal and kill and destroy the identity of the Most High God's people, which is Israel. All right? And all those that follow Torah, that follow Yahweh, that follow the Most High, all right? That follow Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, okay? So, again, it says here, created a new form of social identity. So, When you understand what identity is what objects that have been what set aside, used as what a means to what identify who you are. Okay, and we're going to talk about this more. Why? Because this is going to answer why so many of our people can identify more with chaos, that can identify more with spending $50,000 to $60,000 on a car that's going to depreciate the moment you take it off the lot by 30 to 40%. Why? Because we've been programmed to thinking that these objects is what identify who we are. All right, driving a $60,000 to $70,000 car, but living in an apartment. Wearing $2,000 and $3,000 jeans and sneakers and coats and all this other stuff while you're standing on a bus stop trying to get to work, or trying to go to wherever you're going to hang out with or hang out in. This is because of what? A false understanding of who you are, not understanding what heritage is and what heritage and how identity ties up into heritage. And I'm going to touch more on that. This is why we have so many problems inside our communities right now. All right. So what is heritage? Morashah. All right. Let's start with the Bible. Let me give you some scripture here, because I don't believe in just going off the cuff. Genesis 10:2, it says, the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. All right. Goes on to say, and the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. All right? Togarmah, rather. You have Ashkenaz. Well, why do I have that highlighted here? Why do I have Ashkenaz highlighted here? All right? Now, if you understand, right, the Jewish community as we know them, right, 80% of them refer to themselves as being Ashkenazi Jews. All right? Now, I just showed you that Ashkenaz is the son of Gomer, and what? The grandson of who? Japheth. So the question should be, wait a minute, if they are calling themselves Ashkenazi Jews, right, and Ashkenaz means German, wait a minute, how are they Israel when they are listed under Japheth? How can they be Shemitic or Semitic, whichever term you want to use? How can they be Israel? How can they be Semitic or Semitic and they're listed under Japheth? We got a problem here, right? Now, this is the scripture. This is not me making this up, all right? Here we go. Some more information here. This is coming from an article called Genome Biology and Evolution by Aaron Elhey, who is a geneticist at Johns Hopkins Public of Health. All right, this is his quote right here. He says here, in recent published studies in genome biology, evolution, Elhey, this is in 2002, he is calling for a rewrite of what? Of commonly held assumptions about Jewish ancestry. In other words, he, through his research, says that we have to what? Undo, and guess what? We have to now dismiss this commonly held assumption about the ancestry of those that call themselves Jews, that as we know today. He says it right here. You can look it up, all right? Oxford Journals, all right? Now it goes on and says, instead of being primarily the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, present-day Jewish population are, finds Elhey, primarily the children of a Turkish people. Wait a minute. He just said that they are not descendants of Shem. Okay? We'll deal with that another time. He goes on to say, who lived in what is now Russia, north of Georgia, east of Ukraine. This civilization, the Khazars, converted, there you have it, converted from the tribal religions to Judaism between the 7th and 9th century. All right? And we're going to highlight Judaism in this presentation. All right? He goes on to say, the E and J haplogroups have Middle Eastern origins, while Q may have originated in Central Asia or Siberia. And G2A3B1 subclade probably originated in either Iran or the Caucasus region. All right? Now understand that E, again, it says, it recognizes that what? It tells us that this haplogroup is what? Middle Eastern. So guess what? Pretty much every Negro that's in this country or in the Americas that are descendants from slaves, I can guarantee that your haplogroup is E1B1A, which means that guess what? You are from what? What is now called the Middle East, which is actually Northeast Africa. Uh-oh. All right, let me go further here. All right. Back to the scripture. By these were the isles of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, everyone after his tongues, after their families, and their nations. All right? This says the descendants of Japheth had their own lands, and here's the kicker. This is a key term right here. I'm not going to get into it right now. The island of the Gentiles, divided in their lands, everyone after their tongues, families, and nations. So I want you to highlight in your Bible, lands, tongues, families. All right? These three come together to form what is what? Called a nation. These are the three major pillars of what consists of, or what, of the identification of what come together to make a nation a nation. You have to have land, you have to have a tongue for the people, and you also have to have what? Families. In other words, commonality through your bloodline. All right? Now here we go again. Let me confirm this. Sons of Ham. Okay? Before we get started, some of you already know this. The description of the sons of Noah, all right? The description of Ham, the son of Noah. This is coming from the Zondervan Compact Dictionary, all right? You can order this. It only costs $7. You can order this. This is nothing that I am making up. On page 213 of the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, this is what it says. I'm going to highlight it here, all right? It says, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of the 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Now remember what I said at the beginning of the presentation, highlighting from Jeremiah chapter 44. How some, no matter what truth you give them, no matter how much proof you give them, they are going to still want to believe what they want to believe. But this is coming from the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. Notable research, all right? Notable reference right here. All right, this is not something you find in the back of what you call it, the flea market back home. This is not what you find. This is not in the back of the flea market books that you find there. This is a notable reference book right here. Okay, but it says again, he, referring to Ham, became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. That term Negro is very significant. And if you really paid attention to history and what's been going on in our government, a year ago, the former president, Barack Obama, guess what he did? He signed a bill that that now we're no longer are identified as Negroes. Officially, we're identified as African Americans. Now, guess what? That term African Americans, guess what, still does not tell us who we are. All it just says that we came from the continent of Africa, which is actually Akibulan. That's all that term African American means, saying that you come from the continent of Africa. But it doesn't say where in Africa. And Africa is not like the United States. Africa is a continent that consists of 53 nations, and actually when you add the whole Middle Eastern territory, it's even more. So guess what? When you say that you're African American, it's no different than saying what you're black. It's a generalized term. It's a descriptor. It's just telling you what landmass you come from. But it doesn't tell you what tribe you come from. It doesn't tell you that anything about your heritage. The way that the history books teach it, that our history started in 1452, which was the first slave transaction between the Roman that was authorized by the Roman Catholic Church, where you had the Portuguese, who was in war with the Moors, right? What they did was the Moors exchanged 11 Negro slaves to the Portugal. Why? What? In exchange of what? Prisoners that the Portuguese had of their soldiers in war. So yes, you had the Moors, you had the so-called Arabs, if we use that term, which is called the Arabic slave trade, that went right into what? The transatlantic slave trade, which is what the Arabic slave trade is still happening to this day. Like those 200 young girls that was kidnapped a couple of years ago by Muslims, right? So guess what? Negroes, there's a significant term, a significant meaning that comes with it. So you are not the descendants of Japheth. You're not the descendants of Negroes, of Ham, as we just displayed right here. So who are we? Okay, let me give you some more information here. It says the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. All right, I'm not going to get into all the names right now for the sake of time. Okay, all right, let me go further here. It says these are the sons of Ham after their families, tongues, countries, nations. There we have it again. The descendants of Ham had their own families, bloodline, their own tongues, dialogue, their own countries, territory, and guess what? In their nations. All right? There you have it, the three pillars again. All right? Let's go further here. The sons of Shem. Okay? Building this right on up. Okay? Sons of Shem. Going down to on verse 21, it says, the sons of Shem, or Sham, also the father of all the children, then, that's the Hebrew word for children, then, of Eber, or Ibri, all right? The brother of Japheth, the elder even to him were children born, all right? So we're dealing with Shem. Eber, father of what? The Ebrees, or Hebrew, which we get the term Hebrew from, all right? So let's go further. Let's do some digging in here, all right? This is a map, Princeton University, 1710, all right? This is a map, all right? Want to highlight this here. Some of you probably already know this, but I'm going to give you some more clarity. I'm going to give you some more information on this map here that many people don't understand. Many people don't know. And for those that are learning for the first time, I'm going to show you here. You see this territory here. You may not be able to see it. I should have enlarged it. This is what is called Negro land, all right? Then you have what is called and that's right, Negro land for those that are hearing this for the first time, Negro land, all right? But I want to also highlight something here. Guinea, all right? Here's Guinea, all right? I want to highlight this text that's written on here, all right? And also you'll see Ouida, all right? Ouida is Portuguese for Judah. This is what is called the slave coast. This is where many of our ancestors got shipped out of. And many of our ancestors, guess what? Most of us got shipped over to Barbados. But that's another story right there. I don't want to get too sidetracked, all right? But I want to highlight this text on here, on this map. And I'm going to debunk what's written on this map, because it's not on the map of Northwestern, but on this particular map. It says, I am credibly informed that your country about 100 leagues north of the coast of Guinea is inhabited by white men, or at least a different kind of people from the blacks who wear clothes and have use of letters, make silk that some of them keep the Christian Sabbath. Now, first thing you have to ask the question, why would Caucasians be so amazed, be so astonished of coming across another group of, let's just for the sake of this presentation, we're using the term whites, all right? Even though I don't subscribe to the term. But inhabited by white men or white people, that's what it's saying here. And they're wearing clothes? That they're civilized? That doesn't make sense here. So I can debunk this comment that was written on this map. Okay? So it's saying that they were shocked that it says inhabited by white men, or at least a different kind of people from the blacks who wear clothes and have use of letters, make silk, and some of them keep the Christian Sabbath. All right? But let me give you clarity on this because we're going to debunk this real quick. All right? Still tying in with the presentation. All right? I want to draw your attention to a man by the name of Elise Recluse. The book is called Africa and Its Inhabitants, Volume 2. And I'm going to use this book to debunk that nonsense that's on that map. All right? This is coming from page 175. All right? It says the Sororities, in other words, the Sonic people, the West Jews of Africa, but unlike them are chiefly wholesale dealers carrying on a large caravan between Sierra Leone and Timbuktu. Wait a minute. The Sonic people, the Jews of West Africa. Wait a minute. You can Google that. The Sonic people. All right? And guess what? This is how they look. This is how they look. All right? Because right now, only thing we're led to believe that the only people of color that are children of Israel are the Ethiopians. They call them the Ethiopian Jews, which is what? By way of King Solomon. That's another story there. But guess what? The Sonic people, the Jews of West Africa, that's what it says here. And this is how they look. They look like our own brothers and sisters here. They look a mere image of us, a reflection of us. All right? Now let me give you a few more bullets out of this book. I don't want to spend too much time on here. All right? Give you another group of people. Page 267, it says, east of Great Popo, the Dahomey territory, guarded by the important town of Gliwe, known to the Europeans by the various names of Fida, Hevada, Wida, and that's still dealing with what? Judah. All right? Here's another quote from there. It says, the old writers called it Judah, and its inhabitants were said to be Jews, while the neighboring river Alala, whose real name is Ephra, became the Euphrates. Okay? I hope y'all grab hold of this. All right? Okay? A couple more bullets from this book here. It says, a part of the local trade is in the hands of the Mavumbis, a people of grave and solemn aspects, who intelligent eyes and straight or even aquiline nose, who pronounce Semitic type has earned for them. And this is what he says about another group of people. The Portuguese designated the Judeas Preton, or Black Jews. Wait a minute. Another group of people that are called what? Black Jews. They may certainly be regarded as of Jewish origin. If the statement be true, they are strict observers of what? The Sabbath, abstaining from all conversations on that day. Now guess what? I just debunked that writing that was on that map. Because truth be told, at that time, guess what? Caucasians couldn't live in that part of the country, that part of the territory. That's why our Hebrew ancestors, guess what? During the diaspora, they fled what? Deeper into Africa. And Amos tells us that many went to the west of Egypt. All right? That's where you see the Sahara Desert at. The Romans couldn't make it across that. They didn't have the equipment. And guess what? The desert would have been too harsh on their skin. All right? Let's move forward here. All right? One more piece of literature here. I'm going to give you another group of people. Some of you might have seen this on my page called from the Department of State Archives, from Harry Kissinger, who is what? The Secretary of State for Richard Nixon, says the Igbos are the wandering Jews of West Africa, gifted, aggressive, westernized. Wait a minute. I just gave you another group of people, right? And if you understand your history, at least 1 out of every 5 of our ancestors that was enslaved are descendants of the Igbos. Oh God. All right, let me leave that alone. I don't want to get too far into there. All right, now let me give you some more information here. Crania Aegyptica by Samuel Morton, page 66, and this is going to be the nail in the coffin right here. This is coming from his literature. He says, this is 1844, page 60. It will follow that upward of 10 million Negroes have been bought as bondsmen into Egypt. All right? He goes on to say this. Negroes, he said Negroes. Negroes were numerous in Egypt, but their social position in Egypt times was the same that it is now, referring to 1844, that of servants and slaves. So guess what? Through the craniums, guess what? He saw that what? Our ancestor that was enslaved had the same cranium as far as measurements and all of what? 700 craniums that he was analyzed out of the catacombs of what? Egypt. And he made this comparison right here that stands to this day. This is more proof that what? We are descendants of Israel. Okay? All right? Let me give you some more information here. All right? Let's get back here. Genesis 20, chapter 10. It says, unto Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder even to him were the children born. All right? So, guess what? In a nutshell, all of them, and I forgot to put that scripture here, same thing with Japheth. I mean, not Japheth, but Shem. They all had what? Land, they all had family, and they all had tongues. All right? So what does family, tongues, land represents? Guess what? They represents nation. All right? Now, all I said was what? Lands, family, and tongues represent nation. All right? But let me give you some secular references so that way you don't think that I'm going crazy here. All right? This is coming from the Oxford Dictionary. It says, a large body, this defining nation, a large body of people united by what? Common descent, okay, all right, history, culture, language, inhabiting what? A particular state or territory. It says it right there, a large body of people united by common descent, history, culture, that's family. Also languages, what? And inhabiting what? Language, singular. Inhabiting a particular state or what? Territory. All right? All right? So what does family, tongues, and land and nation, guess what they represent? I'm going to tell you here. It represents heritage. Heritage. Morashah. All right? Now, what is heritage? Let me define it here. Property that is or may be inherited, an inheritance, in other words, valued objects and qualities such as historic buildings and cultural traditions that have been passed down from previous generations. Now, guess what? Those valued objects that I just identified to being heritage is what? Land, family, tongues, which come together to form a nation. And so because of what that institution of race, they took these very objects and redefined it under a new social system that they put together called race, and gave us a new social identity to what? Erase these valuable objects from our history, or attempt to erase it from our history. And what now redefine what those valuable objects are. See, this is why we have a problem in our communities. Why? Because we don't look at each other as being family. Why? Because guess what? That's how we've been institutionalized to thinking. That's why anyone could come up into our neighborhoods and rape our women, kidnap our babies, kick in somebody's door and no one do anything about it. Why? Because we don't even realize that, guess what? What family means is what? Community of households. Family. All right? Well, let me break it down. Family, on the high level, the community of tribes, the 12 tribes. All right? Then, guess what? Within the 12 tribes, guess what? You have what? The community within the 12 tribes, which is called what? Households or what? Clans or whatever. So guess what? In our communities, guess what? We all are blood descendants and related to each other, but we're institutionalized to thinking that our family does not go outside of our four and no more. And that's why, again, that's why we value things that have no meaning. This is why we don't even value ourselves like we should. All right? This is why you have so many people joining these fraternities and these sororities, because guess what? They don't understand their identity. Now, let me go further here. What is salvation? The Hebrew word for salvation is yasha. Yasha. What is salvation? All right? Salvation. We're just going to break that down real quick. We get into the meat and potatoes now. Yasha. Salvation. It means to be safe, avenging, preserve, rescue, get victory. That's what salvation means. All right? What is a shield? Because guess what? Salvation and shield go hand in hand. The Hebrew word for shield is magan. 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 All right? Magan or magan. All right? Shield. All right? What is it? A defensive armor, in a nutshell, that is carried on the arm, one that protects. All right? A protector. All right? So you have a shield, and what a shield is going to provide you, what? Safety. That shield is going to provide you what? Salvation. Right? I'm going somewhere with this. All right? So make a note of those two words as I go further with this. I'm going somewhere with this. These are shields. See these different shields? Every government organization, guess what? Every country has seals, have different shields. And guess what? Every shield you have to what? Make a pledge to. You see the United States up here? You see the Air Force? You see the military? You see different countries up here as well. And then you also see what? The Fraternal Order of Police, right? You see their star here. You see their eye right here, the eye of Horus. You see the secret handshake right there. The Fraternal Order of what? Police. All right? Let me go further here. And go some more symbols. Here goes some more shields. All right? Because again, so many people find what? Or look for these shields to provide a form of what? Protection and what? Salvation. All right? Let me go somewhere. Let me go further with this. I hope y'all grabbing hold of this. See, every shield has a set of laws. In other words, Torah, which comes from the word Yara, laws you are required to pledge to in order to carry it. See, no matter what government agency that you are part of, guess what? You still have to make a pledge and to abide by a set of their laws. So guess what? Why do we think that we can come to the Most High? And this is what, unfortunately, many of the Christian churches are teaching, that we're under grace and we don't have to deal with the law anymore. But if you really go to the text of Matthew chapter 5, you will understand that Christ is not dealing with the Pharisees. He's dealing with his own disciples, teaching his disciples and placing a point of emphasis that guess what? They have to what? Still be what? Be obedient to the law. But guess what? Through Christ, who is our example. But unfortunately, we can pledge to everything else. We can pledge to all the different shields out there that will wither away, like Deuteronomy 28, I think verse 68 tells us, guess what? The systems that we are a part of, guess what? We cannot find salvation in it. It wouldn't do us no good. We cannot find salvation in the systems of man. The very system that have enslaved us, it said that no man will buy you. In other words, what it's saying is, guess what? There is no salvation in the systems of man. So I'm here to tell you that, guess what? There's no salvation in any of these shields that so many of our people are pledging to. All right? Let me go further here. I want to show you something here. Pledge. In a nutshell, what pledge means is what? Collateral. The Hebrew word for pledge is yalak. All right? Pledge, exchange, a pawn, security, as security. So what you're pledging, what? As collateral, what you're giving is what? You're pledging your life. You're pledging your allegiance to what? That shield. And that shield is going to what? Provide you what? Salvation. You're pledging to that shield. You're pledging that you're going to cover and uphold the laws that come with the territory of that shield. Okay? All right, let me go further here. I'm getting into the meat and potatoes now. Here we go. Example, 1 Samuel 17:38. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also, he armed him with a coat of mail. All right, let me go further here. All right. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off. Now understand, Saul was dealing with an issue here. He was dealing with the issue of Goliath. Goliath has set out a decree that he wanted to challenge the soldier, the best soldier of Israel, one-on-one in a fair fight, and that whoever loses, the other country has to what? Come up under their leadership. All right? And so come up under their authority. So guess what? Here it is. You had, and I'm just making a long story short, David stepped up to the challenge. David stepped up to the challenge. And King Saul, he had what? Even offered his own daughter. His own daughter as a prize for the person who would slay Goliath. The scripture tells us that Goliath was what? About 9 feet tall. He was head and shoulders above every man. And guess what? The same thing is described for King Saul. He was head and shoulders taller than any man, any person in Israel. So that lets us know that Goliath was his giant. Now all of a sudden, now that David had to convince him that, hey, when I was, and here it is, this is what heritage would do for you. This is what identity would do for you and should do for you, that whenever you face an opposition, you can remember your heritage, you can remember your identity, and you can identify with the Most High and how he covered you and protected you from obstacles of your past in order to what? Knock down those giants in the present. So David said to him, he said, hey, I can't wear this. Now, isn't this ironic that Saul want David to wear armor that he don't even have confidence in? Doesn't that sound like people we know? They got all the advice for you on how to deal with situations, but they will not take those same advice. They will not utilize that same advice. All right? But nevertheless, David said, I can't wear these things. And he took them off. What he's saying is, I can't identify with them. All right? So I want to send a message to everyone that's watching here. When people want to give you stuff that don't belong to you, return to sender. Return to sender. Stop opening up these packages. Stop taking on these shields and all these different things that people are trying to put on you, because it will become a weight. It will become a burden. It will become a stronghold. All right? Return to sender. Somebody say return to sender. All right? Let me take you further here. All right? I want to see, you probably can see some of these symbols popping up here. All right? These are different fraternities here. AKAs, you see it popping up here. All right? But I want you to see some other things here. I want you to pay attention closely. All right? You know what that is. All right? You know what that is. The Eastern Stars. All right? And you see the Masons compass and square. All right? And I'm going to prove to you every last one of these fraternities came out of Freemasonry. All right? Here we go. What is the GLO? All right? What is the GLO? The GLO stands for Greek lettered organizations. All right? Why so many call themselves Greeks when that's not their nationality? Why so many of us joining these fraternities and sororities and calling themselves Greeks, and that's not even their nationality? All right? And for the sake of time, I didn't put that part of the presentation in, because that would have taken another 30 minutes to explain. But guess what? We'll deal with that another time. But that's when you start dealing with how the Greco-Romans, guess what, changed the languages of every people that they conquered. But nevertheless, let's leave that alone. I'll deal with that another time. So guess what? Heritage. Many of our brothers and sisters are joining these organizations because they don't know who they are. They don't know their heritage. They don't know their marasha. They don't understand what those valued objects are. All right? Like we pointed out, land, family, tongues, nation. We could go further with that. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to touch on that right now. The children also of Judah, all right, Yehuda, and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold Makar unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their borders. Guess what? The Grecians enslaving what? Our ancestors. And yet many of us are what? Gravitating to what? The very thing that's enslaved us. That is what is called cognitive dissonance. All right? You know, this is what's happening right now. So I'm not going to go too deep in that, but I got another presentation I want to show that will tie in and really go deeper into that part, that area of discussion, but not right now. So right now I want to deal with cult. All right? What is a cult? What is a cult? All right? This is coming from the 1997, the American Heritage Collegiate Dictionary, 3rd edition. All right? This is what a cult is. The definition of a cult is a group of people with extreme dedication to a certain leader or set of beliefs that are often viewed as odd by others. Here it is again. It says a cult is a group of people with extreme dedication to a certain leader or set of beliefs that are often viewed as odd by others. All right? Or is an excessive and misplaced admiration for someone or something, or is something that is popular among a certain segment of society. That's what a cult is, all right? Okay? Leviticus 7:7, this is what it says. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a-whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations. All right? All right? And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils. All right? Now let me give you the another translation of that so you can understand where I'm going at with this. All right? It says they must no longer offer their sacrifices to the goat demons, which is Leviticus 17:7. Goat demons. Highlight that. Goat demons. All right? Because Israel had a history of what? Going into idol worship. And then guess what? That symbol, that goat demon always seemed to always raise his face, right? Always raise his face. All right? This is coming from, this next translation is coming from the NIV Bible. All right? They must no longer offer any of their sacrifices to what? There we have it again, the goat idols. All right, still dealing with that goat, right? Okay, now here's the goat right here. This is Molech, right? Moloch rather. You see the horns, you see that? And on the right you see the Baphomet, all right? You see the horns, right? You see the pentagram in the center, all right? So here we go again. You know, like the repeat of history, all through the book of Judges, you see it over and over again. Again, Israel sinned before God. You saw that is like echoed all through the book of Judges. Again, Israel sinned before God. And before you know it, they went into a captivity. And it got longer, it got extended, longer and longer every time we went against the Most High. But nevertheless, those are the goat demons right there. So sacrificing to the goat demon. That's what the Most High telling us. We are not to sacrifice to the goat demon. And here's Leviticus 18:21. It says, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. In other words, I am the Lord, Yahweh. I am the Lord, Yahweh. All right? Okay? This is coming from Exodus 32:4. It says, and he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with graving tools. He had made it a molten calf. There we have it again. And they said, these by thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Now, here it is. Our ancestors, Israel, creating what? A goat demon, a molten calf. And then it says, and when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. All right? Now they're idolizing this goat demon. All right? And it says, and they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. You know what they're having here? They're having carnival. This is carnival. All right? And when they made that golden calf, that is a float. All right? They rose up to what? Play. All right? They sat down, they ate and they drank, and they rose up to play. They rose up to dance. They rose up to party. They rose up to do all the different things that come with the territory of demonic worshiping. All right? Now I want to show you something here. All right? You see these images right here? All right? Look like carnival, doesn't it? Look like Mardi Gras, doesn't it? All right? Let me go further here. Let me show you a couple more images here. You see these? Right? You see the floats? See the dragon or whatever? All right? You see it all up in here? Guess where this is? Guess where this is located at? This is Purim in Tel Aviv, Israel. Right? We see how our land is being profaned with what? Idol worshiping. All right? Having carnival. This is carnival. And that's exactly what was happening with our ancestors were doing back in a time where they built the golden calf when Moses went up into the mountains. All right? Now here we go. Let's get back to here. Histories of fraternities and sororities. I'm going to tie it all in together. Here we go. All right? I got some good time here. Here we go. We're going to define what fraternity and sorority is. Here we go. This is the definition of a fraternity. Body of men associated by common interests, brotherhood, all right? That's what it means. Meaning state or condition of being brothers. From the late 15th century, all right? College Greek lettered organization since is from 1777, first in reference to Phi Beta Kappa, all right? So that's what we have from fraternity, brotherhood. Sororities, guess what? A society of women, sisterhood of or pertaining to sisters, all right? Alpha Delta Phi, or Pi, claims founding in 1851. All right? So, women's society in a college or university attested by 1877. All right? Now, the very first fraternity here in this country is called Phi Beta Kappa. Phi Beta Kappa. All right? Now, here's some history on Phi Beta Kappa. This is coming from their website, the Phi Beta Kappa Society, the nation's oldest academic honor society, all right? And here's a brief history of them. Phi Beta Kappa was founded by 5 students at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. The first meeting was held in the Apollo Room of the Old Raleigh Tavern on December 5th, 1776, all right? Goes on to say, John Heath, that is this guy right here, the first president of Phi Beta Kappa, was determined to develop a student society that would be much more serious-minded than its predecessors. All right? The group consisted of students who frequently gathered at the Raleigh Tavern, which was a common meeting area off the college campus, in which a story began to circulate that a Masonic lodge also met at the tavern, but the Freemasons supposedly gathered at a different building in Williamsburg. But guess what? Coincidentally, 10 of the original members later did become Freemasons. All right? All right? Now, there are 4 classifications of fraternities and sororities. 4 classifications. All right? Number 1, you have what is called social fraternities and sororities. Number 2, professional and exclusive fraternities such as like doctors, lawyers, and so forth, all right? Police officers, government agencies, all right? Then you have honor and recognition societies. And you also have what is called the varsitarians, all right? So those are the four different groups right there of fraternities that you have, okay? So most social fraternities and sororities, they impose secret obligations on their members and have secret or distinctive hand grips and passwords that enable the members to be acquainted with one another while verifying their common membership, all right? Every fraternity has a baptismal presentation. Every fraternity has a baptismal presentation, all right? What is a baptismal presentation? Here it is. The baptismal presentation is the first stage in all fraternities and sororities, initiation rites. A person cannot become a member without passing this stage. The first stage is called baptismal because the applicant or recruit is baptized and given a baptismal name or alias, all right? Like we saw Half Pint, right, in school days. Those are the names that they were given while they were online, all right? So this is what is called, what? The baptismal, all right? The baptismal presentation, all right? Okay. So, after the baptismal, the applicant is called a neophyte, and he lives as a slave until he finally becomes a member of that fraternity or sorority. All right? So a neophyte is a new convert to a religion, a novice in a religious order, or a newly ordained priest. So what is the first Negro fraternity in America? What is the first Negro fraternity in America? Well, here's the answer for you. Prince Hall Freemasonry. Prince Hall Freemasonry. That is the first fraternity, Negro fraternity in America. Prince Hall Masonry. All right? Some information about Prince Hall. Prince Hall is recognized as the father of Black Masonry in the United States. Historically, he made it possible for Negroes to be recognized and enjoy all the privileges of free and accepted Masonry. Okay? A few records and papers have been found on him in Barbados where it was rumored that he was born in 1748. But no record of his birth by church or state has been found there, and none in Boston. All right? More information on him. On March 6, 1775, Prince Hall and 14 men of color were made Masons in Lodge number 441 of the Irish Registry attached to the 38th British Foot Infantry at Castle Williams Island in Boston Harbor, Massachusetts. It marked the first time that black men were made Masons in America. All right? About a year later, since the conflict between England and America had commenced, the British Foot Infantry left Boston along with its lodge, leaving Prince Hall and his associates without a lodge. Before the lodge left, the worshipful master Bax gave them a permit to meet as a lodge and bury their dead in manner and form according to the Masonic rituals, facing the east. All right? This permit, however, did not allow them to do any Masonic work or to take in any new members. Under it, African Lodge was organized on July 3rd, 1776, with Prince Hall as the worshipful master. Okay? All right. It wasn't long before this lodge received an additional permit from the provincial Grand Master, John Rowe, to walk in procession on St. John's Day. And on March 2nd, 1784, African Lodge number 1 petitioned the Grand Lodge of England, the premier mother or Grand Lodge of the world, for a warrant, in other words, a charter, to organize a regular Masonic lodge with all the rights and privileges thereunto prescribed. All right? Now, I want to make this clear. This is a major accomplishment. However, this is not the heritage that the Most High God set aside for his people. Yahweh did not set aside his people to be indulging in Freemasonry and any type of demonic worshiping. This is, again, a major accomplishment. Yeah, because, you know, for a melanated person to be able to what? Be permitted to what? Go into new territories and becoming a Freemason. But at the same time, that is not our heritage, period. So I don't take pride in this, okay? All right? Let's move forward here. All right? 2 Corinthians 11:14 says, and no marvel, for Satan himself, Hasatan, is transformed into an angel of light, Ora. Ora. That's the Hebrew word for light. Transforms himself into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers, all right, Kahan, also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. All right? Let's go further here. All right? If Hasatan and his ministers pretend to be messengers of light, this means they have a doctrine they will push. All right? This means that they have a doctrine that they will push. All right? They have to have a doctrine as well. Well, what is that doctrine? What is that doctrine that they're pushing? In Masonry, the light, or Ra, is very important in their doctrine. Okay? I want to introduce you to what is called the three lesser lights in Masonry. All right? Here's the three lesser lights. The three lesser lights, which represents the sun, moon, and master of the lodge. All right? The three lesser lights represents what? The sun, the moon, and the master of the lodge, which is called the worshipful master. Okay? A major pillar of Freemasonry. All right, here's a major pillar in Freemasonry. I want to highlight this individual here. Here's a major pillar right here. Eliphas, all right, Levi, and the Kabbalah. Eliphas Levi, that's him on the right there. He is a major pillar to Freemasonry. He's a major pillar to what? The Kabbalah. All right, Eliphas Levi, the Kabbalah. All right, by Robert L. Uzel. This is a quote. What is more absurd and more impious than to attribute the name of Lucifer to the devil? That is to personify evil. The intellectual Lucifer is the spirit of intelligence and love. It is the paraclete, in other words, an advocate. What did I just read here? He is what giving worship. He's what praising Lucifer. He says Lucifer is the spirit of intelligence and love. He goes on to say this right here. He called Lucifer the Holy Spirit. He says it is the Holy Spirit, where the physical Lucifer is the great angel of universal magnetism. So he calls Lucifer the Holy Spirit. In other words, the spirit of the Antichrist is the Holy Spirit, and Lucifer himself is the great angel of the universe. All right? He goes on to say this, some more information, all right? Out of what is called the Dictionary of Satanism. This is what he said about Eliphas Levi. A French magician and author of works on the occult, Eliphas Levi, whose real name is Alphonse Louis Constant, claimed to have summoned up the ghost of Apollonius, all right, of Tyana in London in 1854, born in Paris about 1810. And guess what it says? He is said to have been reincarnated as Aleister Crowley. So one of the first Americans to come under the influence of Eliphas Levi was the noted Masonic writer Albert Pike. Albert Pike. Pike's Morals and Dogma reveals an entire section of Pike took verbatim from the works of Levi. All right? Let's highlight some things from Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. Albert Pike, very instrumental with the writing all the initiations and so forth with the Freemasons. All right? let's see let's see some of the quotes that he says. He says, Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious, name to be given to the spirit of darkness, Lucifer, the son of the morning, is it he who bears the light, and with its splendor, intolerable, blind, feeble, sensual, or selfish souls. Doubt it. All right? Let's get some more information about what he says about Lucifer. That which we must say to a crowd, we worship a god. But it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign grand inspectors generals, we say this, that you may repeat it too. What he's just saying here is that instead of saying that they serve Lucifer, they say we worship a God. But it is the God that one adores without superstition. And what he's saying is they're just going to purposely say we worship God, so that way that no one grabs hold or catch on to what they really worship him, which is Satan. Because if they say we worship Lucifer, guess what? People will be alarmed right off the bat. But he said we worship a God. That's why we're living in a time where so you just saying you believe in God, guess what? That can mean anything. Even in church, you have people worshiping all kinds of satanic practices in church. You have the Masonic lodges in church. But he said we worship a God. So again, just because you say you believe in God and somebody say they believe in God doesn't mean you're worshiping the same God. That's why we have to stop with all this generalization and start what? Being more pinpoint exactly who we worship. It said we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, sovereign grand inspectors, generals, we say this, that you may repeat it too. So guess what? Have you taken oaths so you can repeat it too? By them just saying, generalizing, using the generalized term God. So make you more comfortable, what? To receiving their oaths. Becoming up under what? Their fraternities and sororities. This is what he goes on to say. 31st and 30th degrees, the Masonic religion should be by all of us initiates of the higher degree, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. All right? The sun represents the actual light he pours upon the moon, his fundating rays. Both shed their light upon the offsprings, the blazing star, or Horus. That's what he says. The blazing star, or Horus, and the three forms of the great equilateral triangle, in the center of which is the omnific letter of the Kabbalah, by which creation is said to have been effected. So here it is. He's making reference to the Kabbalah. He's making reference to the star, to Horus, the blazing star. Oh, you see it right here. And for some of you guys that are watching it, guess what? If you research from one of the pillars of the Kemetic community, Malachi Z. York, who's locked up because of perversions, you will see, you can look up and you hear him say that, guess what? He is a Mason and that he worships Nimrod. All right? So when you start getting into all of these systems right here, guess what? It's going to lead you into perversion, and they try to generalize the terms to make it more acceptable to what? To get you in. So again, you see right here, when you practice in Masonry, guess what? You practicing the Kabbalah. You're practicing Judaism. You're practicing what? Kemet, Egyptology. You're practicing all these things because Freemasonry is pretty much a smorgasbord of all these mystical systems. All right, here we go. In the first three Persian Amshapans, lords of light, fire, splendor, we recognize Ahor, Zohar, and Zayo, light, splendor, and brightness of the what? Kabbalah. There you have it again. Kabbalah. All right? Masonry is a search after light. That search leads us directly back, as you see, to what? Here we go again. The Kabbalah. And the ancient and little understood medley of absurdity and philosophy, the initiate will find the source of many. Uh-oh. There we have it again. Okay? Couple more bullets here. Phileo calls it the universal light. All right? Goes on to say the Kabbalah represents that only so much of the infinite life flowed into the circular void prepared for creation. Okay? He goes on to say as well, he's just making more references to the Kabbalah. I don't want to get into, go too deep with all his quotes, but you get the picture that when you dealing with Freemasonry, guess what? Albert Pike is what? He's a Luciferian, all right? He worshiped Lucifer, right? And this is what he says here. If Lucifer were not God, would not Adonai, whose deeds prove his cruelty and hatred of man, barbarism, and repulsion for science, and would Adonai and his priests culminate him? Yes, Lucifer is God. That's what he says. Unfortunately, Adonai is also God. But he has Lucifer capitalized, and he has Adonai what? Or Adonai lowercase. All right? All right? So he goes on to say, for the eternal law is, there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. The absolute can only exist as two gods. All right? That's what he's making reference to, Lucifer and the Most High. All right? So thus the doctrine of Satanism is heresy, or heresies rather, and the true pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. So they call the Most High a God of darkness and evil. That's what he says. All right? So let me give you some influences of Freemasonry on religion. I'm just going to highlight one. And we're moving forward. We're moving right along here. All right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. That's John 1:1 from the King James Version. In other words, the word dabar. All right. In the beginning was the word dabar, and the word dabar was God, Elohim or Elohim, and the word dabar was God. It says, and the word was with God, and the word was God. All right. Now let me give you a reference here. This coming from the New World Translation. All right, Jehovah's Witnesses Bible. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. You see a difference, right? You see that when they inserted that a there, that they made Christ, according to their literature, as a demigod, a lower God. It says, and the Word was a God. In other words, they put what is called an indefinite article in a place that did not warrant an indefinite article being inserted there. In the Greek language or in the Hebrew language, there's no indefinite articles, only in English. And so Greek scholars, guess what? They do not approve of the translation of what? The New World Translation, because it completely contradicts. All through their Bible, they started inserting what? Indefinite articles into their translation. And this is one of them. But this is no coincidence. It says that the Word was a God. So when you start understanding the different manuscripts, as far as the Alexandria manuscript, right, and then you'll understand how it was broken down into two manuscripts, as far as the Sinaiticus and also the Vaticanus, right? You'll understand that, guess what? Even the Alexandria manuscript is a corruption that's heavily influenced by Origen, Clement of Alexandria, These are some guys that was advocates for what? Gnosticism or what, and so forth. So they believed that Christ was what? A lesser God, and they believed that what? He was a demigod, so to speak. And that, they believed that Christ did not reach his divine, did not reach divinity, so to speak, or become divine until after he was resurrected. But it's a lot. It's a lot into that doctrine when you start getting into that Gnosticism. And in here, you see that there's a difference, right? But there's no coincidence that you see in the Word was a God. All right? This is the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Charles Taze Russell. The Temple of God, all right? This is some literature titled The Temple of God. It's reports from 1906 to 1916. It contains his messages, his sermons that he did inside of the lodge, inside of the Masonic lodges, right? This is some of the things that he quoted that I pulled out of some of his messages. He said, I am very glad to have this particular opportunity saying a word about some of the things which we agree with our Masonic friends, because we are speaking in a building dedicated to Masonry. And we also are Masons. I am a Freemason. All right? What does that mean? The founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses are what? He was a Freemason. All right? And if you look him up, you'll see the pyramid buried right on his grave. All right? But nevertheless, he says this, I said that I have been in conference with the great master workman, the Lord himself. All right? And I have secret information through the Holy Spirit and guidance in respect to what the Bible says that contains all truth. And in the Jehovah's Witnesses, they refer to Christ as being a master worker, a master workman, as he highlighted here with the great master workman, the Lord himself. All right? He goes on to say this. But now I am talking about this great order of Masonry, which Jesus is the grand master. This order is to be entered in a peculiar way. All right? A couple more quotes from him. It is in writing the goat, there we have it again, the goat demon, and the Bible calls for the goat. You know, the Bible tells you that your goat, which you have to ride more or less every day, is your own flesh. All right? Our Masonic friends have it down very fine. In other words, saying that the Masons perfected riding the goat, worshiping the goat demon. That's what he's saying right here. All right? So that's just a little bit right there. So what is the difference between media and medium? This is important. I just want to highlight this real quick. All right? What is the difference between medium and media? Pretty much, I'm just going to give it to you. This is what medium is. The intervening substance through which sensory impressions are conveyed or physical forces are transmitted. All right? Medium. All right? Hold on to that word. The intervening substance through which sensory impressions are conveyed or physical forces are transmitted. All right? Media. What is media? All it is what? Media is the plural form of medium. In other words, when we start thinking about the reason why I put these words out there is because when you start understanding mysticism and you start understanding witchcraft, guess what? They use the term medium, in other words, path. All right? So in Genesis 3 and 5, guess what? When Hasatan tempted Eve and said that, guess what? You'll be as gods. Guess what? In a nutshell, what it was saying that they will be able to establish their own path of what is righteousness, what is holiness, and that they did not need the Most High God. So that's what media and medium is saying that all other ways, alternative ways to whether it's to what? Eternal life, alternative ways to righteousness, alternative ways. So guess what? Medium, that's what it is. And media is the plurality of medium.
Break it down now.